Thank you very much, Hope, and thanks so much for having me. Okay, good morning from Dallas, Texas, my distinguished colleagues and everyone on this call. Thank you very much for joining, and I'm really, really excited to be with you today. Now, this is our public lecture. As usual, every quarter we have a public lecture, and I'm super excited that we are able to do this. Today we're considering navigating modernity, challenges and adaptation in African family life. One of the things that we seem to have lost as a people is a sense of identity. People talk about slave trade and the damage it did to the Black community, the African community, especially our brothers who were taken from Africa, well, who were sold by our brothers and our fathers and sold, beyond the shores of Africa to the rest of the world. And one of the things that that happened was that when you got into slavery, one, they changed your name, they changed your history, they scattered families, and so an entire generation of history and identity was lost. Now, people who stayed back home who were not captured will think that, okay, we didn't go on slave trade. But now we know that people who were at home were also captured and they were also serving their own slave trade terms at home. But they were serving it, in the hands of their own brothers and their own leaders. And so the ones who were shipped ashore, they are often in better shape right now, even than those who were left behind at home. But in the midst of all of this, modernity has come. There's been a whole lot of changes. The way we parent, the way we live our life seems to be changing. And what has that been the impact on the African family system? When I was growing up, they will tell you stories. Stories were things that families used to pass moral values. For example, we all had what we now know as family avatar. When I was growing up, the avatar was usually the tortoise and his wife called Yanibo. And so all kinds of stories were built around that. So when you gather every evening, maybe grandma or grandpa or someone in the family shared a lot of stories and they asked you, what were the lessons you learned? And so for those of us who master the value of contentment, the value of honesty, the value of, resilience, that was where we learned them from. You knew how not to steal by listening to the consequence of what happened to tortoise and its wife. You knew how to be contented, how not to be covetous by listening to those stories. Now, the modern day is here. AI is here. Everything is at a click. Everyone has got a phone. Now, right now, you're seeing a whole lot of our children, some of them badly behaving, because parenting has been yielded to the winds and it's been yielded to media. And so media is the new parent. And so a whole lot is happening that you're looking and asking yourself, what is going to be the impact in the future? Marriages are crashing at the speed of thought, and you're wondering what's going on. The rate of production of responsible men has reduced, and responsible women has reduced. And so you're having unprepared people stepping in a marriage, and they are going to have children. Before they even have children, one person is on the run already. Now, what has been the impact on our culture? These were things that we never used to have. Now it's becoming a mainstay. Today's public lecture is dedicated to analyzing and profiling solutions as African community. At the Institute of Family Engineering and Development Africa, our ruthless goal is to produce family life professionals that humanity deserves across the world. And recently we started looking at how to shift, the base of power in every nation where you have the Black community, especially across Africa. Our goal is 1,000 family life professionals every year going forward, because the ratio of mental health workers to clients is now 1.4 mental health worker to over 100,000 people across Africa. And that's really, really sad. And so we need to move using the family STEM engineering template to begin to help African families create an effective family life. We believe that in the future, the world will need the happiest people. And those happiest people will be found in the African families. They will need leaders who will lead with integrity. We believe those leaders must emerge from our families. And that is why, like the Jews have done, the Indians have done, you can get into the future while shielding what is your cultural heritage, what is peculiar to you, and what speaks to your magnificence and your greatness. We will not lose ourselves. All we can be is African. We cannot be white. We can't be any other thing apart from who we are. We can't change the color of our skin. We can't change our history. We can't change our heritage, but we can leverage our history, leverage our heritage to actually proactively drive and determine the future. I know someday the whole world is going to wake up to the fact that, Africa is actually where unity lies. Africa is where brotherhood lies. And Africa is actually how to live authentically. So I want to welcome all of you to this public lecture. Our guest lecturer, I want to thank him, Professor Yomi Faweimi. You know him. He will dive deep into the details of the matter, and it will get you cracking, cracked up. You're going to laugh, you're going to smile, you're going to have a lot of curiosity, and then we'll ask him questions when it's done. I'm really excited, and I look forward to this. So thank you, everyone, for showing up, for joining from different parts of the world, those in North America, Europe, Africa, and the rest of the world. Thank you for joining us. If you see our friends you want to invite, share the link with them. Let's invite them. But it's time to explore, the African culture and framework in the light of modernity. I am excited. So thank you, everyone. I will welcome you on behalf of the Institute of Family Engineering and Development, Africa. We'll see you at the end of the program. Thank you very much, Hope. You can take it away.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Sir Praise, for that inspiring welcome address. Now, it's time to introduce our esteemed guest speaker for today's lecture. We are honored to have with us Professor Abayomi Fawohimi. Professor Abayomi holds a first-class degree in estate management. He holds a postgraduate degree in estate management, education, and sustainable development. Professor Yomi has served as a lecturer at 3 different universities and the St. Clair College, Windsor, Ontario. Professor Yomi is a human resources professional, career coach, author, consultant, and practitioner. He has served at the National Council of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management and the expert panel of the Society for Human Resources Management. He is married to Abosede, and the marriage is blessed with 2 sons. He has written several books and publications and appeared on several international media platforms and continue to feature at different events and learned programs. Professor Yomi's extensive knowledge and experience makes him the perfect guide for us as we navigate this critical topic. Let's light up the comments as I yield the floor to Professor Yomi. Welcome, sir. We are happy to have you, sir.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Prof. You're welcome, sir.
Okay, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. I don't know what time of the day it is where you are. Please confirm you can all hear me.
We can hear you, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. As some of you can see, I'm driving. The time of the day is such that I'm commuting at a time like this. And I want to thank the leadership for giving me the opportunity to do this. I will be getting to a point where I'll park and then continue the conversation. I want to thank again the leadership for the opportunity and for the privilege to address us. I've been given a very interesting and relevant topic, and that's why I can take the risk I'm taking, because the topic is about modernity, and part of the joy of the modern world is the privileges and the chances it gives us. One of which is, for example, you can do a seminar, you can do a public lecture, and there'll be people from all over the world, and those people are not in the same place. So a couple of years back, you wouldn't have people from the US or England or Canada attending the conference, except they are physically together. But with Zoom, with WebEx, and all that Skype, we can do that. Now, I can drive and still address you from anywhere in the world. Now, and driving does not prove of my disrespect for you or lack of importance of the invitation, but just something to show, to bring to life the reality of this modernity. We're saying that today I can be anywhere and do anything, practically anything. We have today doctors who consult across the ocean, doctors who see patients, doctors who do surgeries in India, and they send the patients back to Nigeria and they continue the follow-up consultations from India to Nigeria. So that's the world we are in, and that's why it's apt for us to talk about these questions of modernity and the difference. So very apt topic. Now, it's also important for us to mention the fact. Thanks for all those welcoming in the chat. I really appreciate it. It's also important for us to remember that the idea of modernity could be subject to various interpretations. For those of us who study history and psychology and philosophy, modernity is a bit different from becoming modern. I mean, so you can move to modern times and you'll not be caught up by modernity. Modernity assumes some form of acculturation as a result of modern things. So, for example, it is not modernity that made us to start to use phones or made us to start to use smartphones. No. But when we now imbibe the cultures that the modern life brings, that is when you have the impact of modernity on you. So it's phones are neither evil or good. But when we now allow that phone to start to change our culture, that's when we start to feel the impact of modernity. So, for example, so what's the impact of a smartphone on the family? What's the impact of the television on the family? What's the impact of Wi-Fi on the family? Those are while those gadgets are tools of modernization, when those gadgets now chance to change our behavior and our culture, that's when we start to see the impact of modernity. So it's important for us to start from that framework, because the goal is not for me to address whether TV is good for your home or not, TV is not good for your home. But the question is, are there values that this modern times are bringing that is influencing the way we live our lives, we run society, makes us change our behavior, either for good or for bad, because there's an assumption is always for bad, but it will also be for good. So I'll start by trying to address what I consider 7 very critical modern trends that has implication for modernity, and I'll address the question of, so the way I'm going to go through the lecture is to first identify those 7 modern trends that I think are very critical in the modern world as related to the questions of modernity, and then now talk about why it's a challenge, because my topic is to talk about modernity and the challenges. So I'll talk about 2 reasons why I feel is a challenge, and then conclude with 5 things I think we can all do to improve. So let me start by addressing the question of those 7 things that I believe are the issues that has made modernity become a threat or become an opportunity for us as families, as individuals. The first trend is the question of, and I know all of you can predict this, the role of technology. Now, with technology in place, the world has changed. Today, we have smartphones. Before now, there were no phones. I mean, when I was young, we didn't have a phone in my house. If somebody wanted to call my parents, they would call a neighbor who would come and call us. But today, you have a phone. Technology enables you to have television in your house. Technology enables you to wash your clothes. Technology enables you to wash your clothes with a machine, not with your hands. And technology has changed everything. Now, are there values that technology has brought that has impacted us? Yes, very well. Efficiency, for example. We're now more efficient than ever before. The reason being that we can do more things. So today, with AI, if I want to write an article, instead of doing 1 million research that's going to take me hours, AI can help me. So we're more efficient. But there are also negative things that technology has brought, one of which is that it has reduced the quality of our communication. And that's an issue for us talking about families and society. So today, what a human being can't do to his friend when he sees him, he can do with the benefit of technology. So I give you an instance. WhatsApp. I'm sure you have seen it happen in WhatsApp. or on Twitter, if you're very popular on Twitter or you use Twitter a lot, where somebody will insult someone or use a very negative word to describe someone. And you now tell the person, do you know this person? And the person says, I don't care. Say, but this is this person. Oh, I didn't know. Or you ask the person, if you saw the person face to face, do you think you'll be able to call him an idiot? Right? So that is part of the cultural issue that is coming from technology. It's changing the way we communicate. It's changing the way there are couples today that both of them are in the same city and they could pick the phone, but they would rather decide to send a text message. Now, there is no problem sending a text message, but the problem is that the text message is totally different from when you are having a face-to-face conversation with someone. So those are some of the things that have become what we need to think about as we think about when you are dealing with technology, when you are dealing with the impact of technology on family. So a question all of us need to ask ourselves is, how does the family change? How does a family get negatively affected with technology? I'm going to give you an instance just for you to be able to relate with. This happened to me a couple of years back. I mean, they greet you yesterday. They look. Sorry. The impact of technology on families is I'm going to give you a practical example. I had so I packed now, so because I feel that would be more effective. So a couple of years back, I had the privilege of having a television. I know somebody will say, so what's special about having a television? Yeah, a television is a gadget. It's a the Yorubas would call it amu mauro, you know. And I got my first television and I got the second television and I had two TVs in my house. And I decided that the second TV would be in my bedroom. My bedroom to me, where my wife and I, our family bedroom. And then what I realized after a couple of time was that that television in our room reduced the time we had to communicate. So when I typically will get into the room before my wife, and I will have been watching CNN or whatever I'm watching, and then she comes inside the room later, and rather than for us to have a dialogue, we are both watching the TV. And I realized that the quality and the quantity of our communication was reducing over time just because of the fact that there was this TV in our room. The TV suddenly became a third person in the room, and it reduced the quality of communication, the quality of information, the quality of dialogue we had. So that's one thing. So the question to ask everybody here is that how has technology as a modern tool influenced your home? And actually in our own family, what we decided today was to take the TV out of our room. We don't have a TV in our room. And it's not that it's because of the fact that we have less number of TV. We still have the two TVs, but there's no TV in any room because it was creating a challenge to our communication as a couple. So like I said, technology in itself is amoral. It's the way, like I said, it's the way you allow it to influence your family values, your family practices, your family system that can become an asset or become a liability. So I said I'm going to mention seven things that I believe has become significant impact to family values in the modern world. So, and I mentioned technology. I mean, and I'm not going to describe all the technologies, but the question you ask yourself is that your phone, for example, think about your phone. Have you realized that we have increased cases of pornography into this modern world? Just because when I was young, for you to see what they call blue film, that's what we used to call it then, you needed to go and you had to be some level of being a bad boy before you can have access to intensive pornography. But in today's world, with the benefit of technology, this phone I'm using to do a Zoom call to you, I can just click, I can just type a website and I'm saying porn. So the way I'm doing the Zoom call with you, I can start to watch porn. I mean, without effort. Like I told you, 40, 30 years ago, if I wanted to watch porn, you will have to go and look for it. So whether, for example, you have an uncle that will bring some magazines, or you go to a cinema, but that is right there on the phone, right? I was telling somebody that when we were younger, I mean, when musicians sang, for example, whether it's Barista or Sonny Ade, they also had singers, dancers who dance for them. And I remember I saw a clip, brought it to me on YouTube recently, when Kolinta Inla did the video of Yo Yo Yo. That Yo 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 was one of the things they consider one of the most racious songs we had there. And there were these ladies that were dancing for him. You see, all the ladies were fully clad. But today, if you want to watch a musical video, even if the term of the song is Suru Laigba or Suru Lady, the girls will not have Suru in dressing. So that's part of what technology has done. So how has it impacted your family? How has it impacted values? That's number one. The second thing I want to talk about is the question of globalization. Now, globalization is integration of the whole world, including the world market system, in such a way that there is an element of integrated services, integrated goods, integrated that. So the second thing I want to mention is the impact of globalization. So today, if I'm a doctor in Nigeria, I can write a letter to another country and look for a job, and they can offer me a job, right? And I can be a doctor to them. Now, what is the implication of that is the fact that you're going to start to have issues with people, for example, that will be dealing with things like Japa. I mean, when people talk about immigration, when people talk about we are dealing with husbands are not at home, wife is in America, husband is in Togo, and things like that. All of those things are things that happen as a result of the fact that we have globalization. It's affecting us. Food. It's acceptable now for most parents to serve their children noodles, right? I didn't know what was called noodle when I was young. Now, I'm not saying every child was like me, but I didn't know what was called noodle, right? But globalization has made noodle become a global meal that everybody now knows noodle to the extent to which it's become the staple. Now, that has implication for our health. And I'm not going to mention any particular brand in Nigeria because of the fact that I don't want to demarket them. But those are the things that are changing our behaviors. Families don't cook like before because of fast food. A couple of years back, fast food was all over the place. So globalization has affected traveling, has affected how we live together. And I was telling somebody that it's so sad that in Nigeria today, that between globalization and even local migration issues, the increasing number of families that are not living together. Many people will talk about, hey, if God has not called you, don't jack back to the US, don't do this. So husband is in US, wife is in Nigeria, wife is in US, husband is in Nigeria. Very, very predominant. But do you know the number of husband is in Abuja, wife is in Lagos too? Do you know the number of husband is in Warri or Port Harcourt for those in the oil industry, and wife is in Lagos? Because all of them are issues affecting the family. So globalization is the second thing that is affecting our behaviors, is affecting our consumption pattern, is affecting our dressing, is affecting how we do things. Number three is the fact that we have now gone into a right-based society. What does it mean a society is right-based? What it means is that society is recognizing new rights that wasn't there before. A couple of years back, the rights of a woman was not as defined as now. A couple of years back, the rights of a child was not defined as now. So today now, we have laws and institutions to protect the rights of women. We have laws and institutions to protect the rights of children. We have rights, organizations, institutions, and laws to protect the rights of animals. Now, so part of the emerging issues in the modern world is there is an increased recognition of rights. Now, the problem that has is that, no, the advantage that has is that it makes us respect people who were not respecting before. So, for example, some of the negative widow practices we had in Africa has now become criminalized in many parts of Africa through laws, which is great. But at the same time, it's also allowing for unnecessary jostling for power. I mean, arguments over should a woman submit to a husband, should a husband submit to his wife, who should be the head of the house, all of those things are things that came as a result of the challenges that comes from a right-based society. Of course, you remember the Beijing conference, the women conference that happened in China. and the fallout from it. So those things that are changing us. They are making women, for example, question the authority of men. They are making men feel inadequate because of the fact that those women are getting more rights and that's men that are not comfortable in their own skins anyway. Their parents are confused how to raise their children because now there are rights for children. If you beat your child in some countries, the government can take away the child from you. If you maltreat your child, the government can take over the authority. The government can enforce you to respect the laws of the land based on child rights. Now, that is changing behaviors. That is changing behaviors significantly. That would be my number 3. Number 4 is a question of an more open workplace. A couple of years back, people worked at home. They worked as entrepreneurs in Africa. So they were farmers, they were hunters, they were not employees. But modern time came when there was employment and men started to go to work. And then it became more modern that not only were men going to work, women also now started going to work. Now, the implication therefore is you now have men and women in the workplace at the same time. Now, what is the result of that? Increased romantic relationship in the workplace. I wrote an article on Valentine's Day last year and the year before about data that shows that 48% of American workers have observed or been involved in romantic relationship with a colleague at work. 48%. Now, as a marriage counselor, one of the things I tell people is that we know the amount of men who are involved in extramarital affairs, but we underestimate the amount of married women who are involved in extramarital affairs because it doesn't get scandalized like the way it doesn't get scandalized. Now, women are now being exposed in the workplace. So some of those women that get involved in extramarital affairs, I have to do it. I've done it out of compulsion. So you have cases, for example, where their bosses forced them or they gave them as a condition for getting a contract or as a condition for getting a job. You have those categories. There are cases of rape in the workplace. Some of you heard a recent story that went all over Nigeria about something that happened in one organization and the lady alleged some director in the organization raped her. I mean, you heard that story. So there are cases where the women did not voluntarily get involved, but there are cases where the women voluntarily got involved, right? Because of the fact that they wanted to catch their show. So that's part of one modernity. So now that, because if it was only men going to work, the women would be protected at home, right? The likelihood of a woman having extramarital affairs, if all she does is to make pap and sell in front of her house, is reduced. But this woman also gets to work in the morning, has male colleagues, is a professional, dresses well. So the exposure has increased. That's a modern issue we need to be very conscious of, that is changing how things are doing. Number 5 is a question of changes in values. Oh no, I can't talk about that too much. Values have changed. Values have changed. What is good before is not necessarily what is good now. What is bad before is not necessarily what is bad now. Actually, you don't even know what is good or bad again. There's a lot of mismatch of values, of characters, of behavior. Now, that has affected us. So I go to the 6th one, is that there's an emerging set of new role models and platforms that project them. And I hope I will not get into trouble for saying this. There is a popular podcast in Nigeria. Actually, I think when I saw the statistics of the most listened to podcasts in Nigeria, that podcast allegedly was either the first or second in Nigeria in 2023. In the last couple of episodes, they have brought in a variety of people. So they have brought stars, they have brought professionals, they have brought leaders, they have brought educators, entertainers, and all of that. But this is what I've also noticed. They have also, please, can somebody confirm they can still see me? Okay. What I've also noticed is that organization, okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for confirming that. What I've also noticed about that organization, thank you very much, Mr. Diko, is the fact that podcasts and the organization have also at specific time brought ladies, mostly ladies, who come to sell values and give them a platform. In this case, it's always about ladies who are either prostitutes or side chicks. There's currently one that is running online about a lady who obviously did not have the best of experience in life and has been involved with men. They asked the lady how many men has she slept, and she said she has lost count. Now, what is happening is that the new platforms, which are sometimes a result of technology, is creating another set of role models, because this lady is being exposed to an audience of millions. This lady in herself, nobody knows her, right? Nobody knows this lady, right? Or those ladies, I mean to say, because it's not one person they are brought. We don't know them, right? And whatever they were doing in their corner. I mean, and they have a right to do that. And I respect them as individuals, even though I do not necessarily agree with what they're doing. But what has happened is that the platforms, and that's why I said it's an emerging thing. The platforms we now have now are platforming them, right? They are giving them platforms. So now you are getting to know that there are now some kind of role models that are emerging through those platforms. Before now, when 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 somebody wants to get access to mass media, mass media in Nigeria, he will go to NTA or go to NTV, but as when I was growing up, or you will go to Channels Television, you will go to Ray Power. Now, those platforms were regulated. There was the Nigerian Broadcasting Code that regulated them. There was ethical rules of the presenters, and people were fined for bringing the wrong people to their platform. But now technology has enabled new platforms that has no form of regulation. So somebody can come there and tell you, for example, and we had to do a video on this where somebody said, side chicks help families. And somebody puts it on the platform without any caveats. And then millions of Nigerians watched it. Now, those platforms are very careful. Not only do they bring these people, now what they do is that they look for the raunchy family-based contributions of those people, the one that is very controversial, and that's what they'll first share on Instagram and on Twitter. So, and then they'll now tell you to watch everything. Those platforms is not just one. So I know there is one that comes to your mind. It's not just one. There are other platforms in Nigeria that use YouTube, right, to promote. Somebody said he can't hear me.
We can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Now, so there are other people who use YouTube, and in this particular case of this platform, they always look how the presenter has this agenda, which I am not really sure whether he's conscious of trying to show the weakness of families. So, for example, if he ever brings a female or a male that has divorced, he will ensure he digs into that information that will reveal failures in the marriage system. Very rarely will he likely steer the conversation to help you know that it is those people that have problems. He's likely going to make it feel as if it is the system that has a problem. Now, those platforms are creating new kinds of role models. So there's this girl who just left secondary school that one man has been toasting, that has been saying no because she doesn't want to spoil her name and whatsoever. And then she hears one lady says that if you're a side chick, you are helping marriages. This lady has suddenly got a new role model. So we need to be very conscious of that. The prescribed family system, yes, I agree with you, and project his business. Number 7, that's where I'm going to stop, is that one of the biggest problems that I think has led to these modernity challenges is the poorer quality of relationships we have in the modern times. Have you thought about it that people will say our communication has broken down as a family? But this is the generation that has the greatest access to communication tools, right? We have phones, we have gadgets that enable us to communicate very well. But this is the same generation that is complaining that is not communicating very well. Why? Because the quality of relationships has reduced. I saw a result, in fact, actually writing an article on it that I'll release in the next couple of days on the quality of friendship. what has been found, and this is data from the US, I don't have data from Nigeria, is that the number of friends Americans are having has reduced over time. Why has it reduced? We don't know how to make friends again. We don't know how to make friends. When you were young, I mean, well, I don't know the age of everybody, but when I was young, the normal thing is that when you come back from school, one, in school, your school is large. There are many students there, hundreds of students, right? I'm sure some of you can relate to it, particularly if you went to a public school. But today's modern world, the thing we used to sell school is the low ratio between teacher and student, which necessarily means the school will not have many students. I've seen graduation pictures of students, and they say this student graduated from secondary school. Everybody in the secondary school are 25. Everybody in the secondary school are 25. When I was in secondary school, my class alone were over 25. My class, the ham, not A, B, C, D. I was in D. We were over 25. And then somebody goes to a secondary school, and all the people that graduated are 25. What kind of relationship skills do you think a child who went to a school that has 100 students have with somebody that went to a school that has 600 students? So the network have reduced. This boy that attends this school that has only 25 students comes back from school, does his homework, lesson teacher comes to take him, and he stays indoors. Remember when you were young, what happens when you come back from school and you do homework? That's if they give you work. You go out, you guys are going to play. You don't come back till night, right? You are developing relationship building skills. Our children today are not developing that, right? They're not developing those skills. They grow up, they are insular, they talk. You see families. Family will say they are doing road trip. They're traveling for 4 hours. Everybody's on the phone. No conversation. Then they get married. And then we're surprised that they can't keep their marriages. No, they can't. They were not taught to have quality relationships. So those things are the things changing us. Like I said, it is not the tool that is a problem. It's not the platform that is a problem. Is it not the same platform we're using here? It's not the platform that's a problem. It's not the technology that is a problem. It's not common. It's the fact that we're allowing to negatively influence us. So why have these things, 7 things I've mentioned, now become a challenge? Because like I said, they're not problems. The things are not the problem. It is us. Why? 3 reasons I want to mention. Number 1 is that we were not prepared for the changes. No, we're not prepared. Who prepared you for the world of YouTube? Who prepared you for the world of Zoom? So it just happened upon us. So we were not prepared for it. Number 2, we did not have the adaptation skills to change to this new technology. So there are people today that want to be talking to you the way they talk to you, they chat you on WhatsApp the same way they talk to you. Do you understand? I told somebody a couple of days back. So let's say I'm talking to you now. I'm sure some of you can see my face, and I say, go ahead. Just go ahead. They play. Now, when you see my face and what I'm saying, you can understand what I'm doing. And it's worse for those of us who are from the southwest of Nigeria, the people called the Yorubas. We have a lot of sarcasm in our language. I mean, it's natural to be sarcastic or to not mean what they say. And you know, the data shows that cultures in Africa and in Asia are what is called eye context cultures. In eye context culture, what you say is not what you mean. So, for example, if my son tells me to go and pour away the stew in the pot, I will say, pour it away. That is eye context culture. I don't mean you should pour it away. I mean you should not pour it away. But that's because it's the eye context culture. What I say is not what I mean. So when a king dies, we will not say the king died. We will say the king has entered the ceiling. What we say is not what we mean, right? Now, we're not adapting. We are bringing the same behavior to Twitter. We're bringing the same behavior to WhatsApp. So somebody says something, then you type, they play. And that person is your elder brother or your dad's brother or whatsoever. We're not adapting to the fact that these new tools have new rules, right? We're not adapting to it. We love to watch television. We now have money to buy television. We now put it in our room. Who asked us to put television in our room? What is it? It's not a sign of wealth. So when you were young, you had television. Why is the television in your room, for example? Now, so we are not adapting to it. The last thing I want to mention is the fact that the rate of change is too drastic for us to cope with. Oh Lord. I mean, even if you feel you are good in social media, you know it's tough to keep up. Is it abbreviation we want to start with? LOL, CYWF, all of those things. Those reasons are reasons why we are struggling. So my suggestion will therefore be, what do we need to do in spite of this modernity to make maximum advantage of it? Oh, DND. Please, what's DND? Olumide, help
Do not
me to
disturb.
understand what's DND. Do not disturb. Oh, okay. Do not disturb. Okay, okay. I wrote somebody BRB, and somebody said, sir. Oh, thank you, Mr. Olumide. Thank you. The person said, I wrote somebody, I said BRB. The person said, what is that? I said, I mean, be right back. And I'm supposed to be right back. And I mean, you want, let me shock you. An elderly woman wrote on the WhatsApp group for the children, Uncle John has died, LOL. Uncle John has died, LOL. So the children call, it seems Olumide is the dawn of this thing. He has written LOML. Which one is LOML? I don't know that one. So this man wrote, Uncle John has died, LOL. So the child quickly called in the family and said, Mommy, what did you write? He said, Uncle John. I said, why did you write LOL? He said, yeah, I just to tell you that I'm sad. He said, no, that's not what it means. It means that you are laughing out loud. The woman said, no, that we're all weeping in his house. But I felt that you people would write LOL to show whether something is bothering you or something like that. I mean, those are some of the things we need to be that, and we need to be conscious of that. So what should we do? Because it's not just about gloom. What we can do something. I think the first thing, I'll just mention four things I think is very important for us to do is, one is that we must know our values. What are the values you have? So if you have a value of respect, Twitter should not take that from you. If you have a value of taking care of your spouse, Kim Kardashian should not change that. If you have a value of training your children, your best friend should not change that. If you have a value of verbal communication and understand the qualities of information, then gadgets should not collect that from you. Modernity should not take that. Know your values. I think sometimes the real problem we have is that we don't really know our values. So anything goes. Anything goes. Because we don't really have values. Let me be very sincere. Many people really don't have values. Or many people do not have enough values that guides them. You know, I don't know. So those of you who live in Nigeria, you know, there's been these arguments on social media to like choir sing, dance, ungwogwo dance on the choir stand. You know, somebody asked me, and I said, the problem is that we really don't have values about dance. So that's why we always have these arguments. When you know what is a value? A value is a one-time decision that guides other decisions. So, for example, I say, honesty is my value. What that means is that every time I have to decide, I have already decided it's honesty. So, because we don't have values of music, because we don't have values of song, because we don't have values of many things, when somebody comes and does go, we start to argue. The reason why you have the argument is that you don't have values. Unfortunately, we have allowed people to expand this. And of course, you know, based on what I never said whether a Christian should dance it or not. But if you have value, there are certain things you will do. For me personally, part of my value is that many things are permissible, but many things are not lawful. So there are things I don't do, not because God said it's bad, not because God said it's not good, but because it's not just, it's not, Yoruba will say, permit me to do this Yoruba will say, onto yeni lo yeni, okun yadie. What it means is, some things are not befitting of you. That you get to a status in life that you will not do certain things because of that status. And you know, one of the things I tell people, and I hope those people who are not Christians will not mind this, is the fact that sometimes the problem we Christians have is the fact that we don't really know how much the pedestrian people put us. So, you know, people will say things that, I mean, somebody will say, how can a Christian be telling us how to dance in church? It's because he respects you. He believes that you are not him. I remember a couple of years back, there was this colleague of mine, they used to say, they use a slang. So they'll say, they'll just say the slang. And the slang was a very interesting slang. I don't know what it meant. So I went to meet one of them and I said, Ogajo, you people say this and what does it mean? He said, prof, don't bother about it. I said, no, I'm just curious because everybody says it and I'm the only one that, and I don't know what. So what does it mean? He said, prof, the meaning is not good. It's a bad word. He said, but you know, you are a good person. You cannot be saying things like that. I said, but you say, he said, we know ourselves now. We know that we are not good people. I mean, it's all. So know your values. Know your values. Know your values. That's number one. Number two, let's learn. Let's become students that learn. Learn how this modernity will affect your values, your family values to be more precise. So, for example, learn how television will influence your family, right? Learn how traveling will influence your family. So, for example, part of the learning is, I mean, when my children were much younger, we do a lot of road trips, and I would drive. I drive. My wife sits in front. My two sons sit at the back. When we're traveling, whether we're traveling from Lagos to Ibadan, Lagos to Engineerin, wherever we're traveling to, is a geography class. It's a geography, the whole trip. As we are driving out, we are leaving Lagos now. We are going there. 5 things they can see. Look around. I mean, they were very young. So, hey, 3, I can see this. Okay, can you mention me the name of the 3? The name of the 3 is this. Okay, let's talk about this. Maybe when we get bored, maybe we are getting to middle of the road. Let's talk about this. Somebody should mention the name of a fruit that starts with letter L. I start lemon. Then, so for us, the value of family trip was based on making it a learning experience. And then when they were younger, part of this learning was that every family trip had a geographical lesson. So I'm not likely, I told the parents once, I said, honestly, between me and you, I'm not going to likely get excited about taking my children. I mean, when they were young, to a destination resort. But I want to take my child to a researcher waterfall, and I did. I want to take my child to IIT, and I did. I want to take my child to Ikogusi One String, and I did. Why? Because it was a learning experience for them. Because when they get to school and they're teaching them about waterfalls, and they remember, they will not forget what they saw in Niagara Falls. So learning is part of what we need to do to understand this new thing. Now, you either learn from others or you learn from experience. In my case, I learned this television thing in my room from experience. But you don't need to learn from experience. That's why it's good for you to get certifications like the FSC does, seminars like this. You can learn. So, how do you guys do WhatsApp in your family? How do you call your wife? How do you do this? How do you do that? Somebody told me that I don't know how to. I said, you can ask questions. So number 2, learn. Number 3 is we must be adaptable and willing to change. I've said, for example, our values and keep your values. There is a sense in which sometimes the keeping of the values make us rigid. But you can have a value and there can be different expressions of it. So, for example, values like respect, values like love, values by honesty, values by candid communication can be expressed in various ways. So that's what I'm trying to say. Be flexible. So what are the things you may have to be flexible about? So how you express love may change. So you have love as a value, but you marry a wife who wants you to be buying him or her flowers, or you have a husband who wants you to buy flowers. Then you just have to be adaptable. And number 4, and that's where I'm going to stop, is that we must become agents of innovation and creativity. With those gadgets that we have, we can be creative. So, for example, you can have a rule, for example, that's okay, I have a TV in my house, but between 8 and 9, the TV will not be on. Everybody will drop their phone and we will talk as human beings in my family. You can have a rule, for example, to say there is a no television day. When my children were younger, we had a no television day in my house. The TV does not come. They know. My children know that a week before examination, the TV doesn't come. It doesn't come. There was a time we had rules, me and my wife, about phones in our rooms. I tried to do something that didn't work, which was that we will not the phone will not enter our room. As in when you are going to say, you put the phone by the entrance and you come inside. That didn't work well. So the point I'm trying to make is that we can be creative and innovative with this technology. So for example, your phone is called a smartphone and it has a calendar. You can tell the calendar to remind you every 2 o'clock to call your wife, for example. Say, you know, once I get to work, means the job is so much. I just forget. I don't remember my wife throughout. There's no, I'm okay if you don't remember your wife. Just tell the calendar to remind you 2 p.m. every day. And then if you want to be creative, tell the calendar, remind me 2 p.m. on Monday, 3:30 on Tuesday, 4:30 on Wednesday, 4:30 on Friday. You will solve that problem that way. Abi? My mommy, my mother-in-law says I don't check on that. Calendar, solve the problem. There's no need for you to create to mess up yourself. And there is and the people say I forget their birthday, I don't give them on their birthday. Facebook can solve the problem for you. Go to Facebook, you'll see everybody's birthday. If Facebook will tell you the people's birthday who is tomorrow. So why are you stressing yourself? So just do this on Sunday. Check the list of all the people that have Facebook birthday, the ones that are critical to you. You know, you can actually draft the Facebook message for them and then put it in draft and tell it to release to them on the day of their birthday. Why are you killing yourself? Innovation, creativity, right? I have a family WhatsApp group. Myself, my wife, and my children, we have a group. Me and my wife, we chat together. We have a group. Me and my children, we have a group. My children and my wife, they have their group. They want to discuss something, they can discuss it themselves. So that is what I mean by creativity and innovation. Those same tools we can use to solve and enhance the quality of our family life because they are agents that we can send errands, right? So I want to just get something done. I think I'll forget. I just put it there. I know for me, Facebook, I love Facebook. Facebook is a great tool for you to know what to do. So, you know, there's something in Facebook called memories. What it does is that if you have anything you wrote, if you write something today, next year it will remind you on the same day. The other year it will remind you. So if it is Prince Powell's birthday, right, and I greeted him this year, when his birthday comes next year, Facebook will remind me. Abi? So I can, if I don't have time to greet him, I can just copy what I greet. It's still him now. Maybe it was 40 before. I can now just change from 40 to 41. Your life becomes easier. Now, if you want to write him a poem, maybe you want to be creative. Facebook now has AI. You can just do that and put AI and say, I need to greet Praise for Owe on his birthday. Please draft a poem of 7 lines. Facebook will do that. Praise for Owe will not know his AI. He will just say, this prof has become sonorous. So see him writing me, dropping bars for me. That's something we can do. Every year, one of my goals every year, I mean, I'm a Christian and I hope those of you listening don't mind me saying that. And that's the point I'm going to do. That's the last thing I just want to talk about. One of my goals every year is to read through the Bible. I read from Genesis to Revelation every year. And I think I've been doing that, I don't know, 30, 40 years every year. But I stumbled on a gadget, an app, YouVersion. Oh Lord, I've been more efficient in reading my Bible, such that now what I do now is that I now read the Bible. So, for example, my goal is to read the Bible every year. So this year, my goal may be I want to read the Bible in KJV. Next year, my goal is I want to read the Bible in NIV. Next year is I want to read the Bible. In fact, we won't be shocked. You will be shocked that I now also lead people to have challenges. So I do like a Proverbs challenge, and I tell people we're going to read a chapter a day in the book of Proverbs for 31 days. And the rule is that you must not read it in a chapter you are familiar with. I did it once. People were like, they didn't know that this book of Proverbs is so rich. So I now said, we're doing another one. What is the challenge? Proverbs challenge. Rule number 1, you cannot use a version you are familiar with. Number 2, you must share your standout verse that is relevant to your workplace. You understand? So it's like you will read a new version, but you must take a verse that is relevant to your workplace and post on social media. People were shocked how verses of the scripture was relevant to their workplace. Another challenge, you must read a new verse, a new version that now allows you to bring scripture on parenting. You know, those are creativity, those are innovation that the tools are already in the hands of the people involved. All I'm just doing is I'm just connecting them and using creativity to make it there. I tell people, guys, we're doing a challenge. Our challenge is that we want to prove that something is not something and it's based on the Bible. Look for scriptures. The point I'm trying to make is that, guys, we need to learn to use these things to our advantage. We have not lost anything. This generation is about the most blessed. We are the ones that have access to most gadgets, most technology. It is not a disadvantage. It is when we allow it to negatively affect our values and our families that it becomes a disadvantage. So I'm going to end on that note because I know I'm supposed to take questions, and I'll turn it over to the moderator.
Thank you very much, Professor Yomi. I want to believe that we've got value today. So I want to see in the comments the value you got today. And shortly we'll be having the Q&A session. So feel free to post your questions in the comments, and also raise your virtual hand when it's time, and you'll be your questions will be heard. So Professor Yomi, we appreciate you for the enlightening presentation, for the session. The lecture is worth it, and we need it. Every family needs to hear this. So in case you weren't able to invite a friend, you can also share on YouTube. We have it's live on YouTube at the moment. Okay, now we'll have our Coach Ayo Lawrence handle the Q&A session. Welcome, ma'am. So we yield the stage for you to handle the Q&A session at the moment. Coach Ayo, you're muted.
Good. Okay. Thank you so much, Blessing. Good day, everyone. It's so good to be here this afternoon, this morning, depending on the part of the world you're joining from. We requested for questions to be turned in. Let me just check to be sure that there are none. Okay, I think we don't have any question here at the moment, but I have a question for Prof. Can we have him also spotlighted? Can we have him spotlighted, please? Okay, let me just ask. So the question I have for you here is, how do we navigate information overload and stay informed without feeling overwhelmed, even as we are navigating, modernization and all? So how are we able to balance that information overload, without feeling overwhelmed and still staying informed?
Yeah, thanks. Very, very great question, man. Thanks for asking. It's honestly, let's be very sincere. The reality of information overload it's obvious to everyone. Anybody who wants to learn knows that there are way too many resources now that could be very overwhelming to anyone. But I think one of the things we need to accept is that there is too much information. I mean, let's just agree to that. There is nothing we can do about that. But I think what we need to start to then do is to focus on what is important to us. There are things that don't bother me as important as they could be. They don't really bother me. So I think one of the things we need to do is to limit our, define our scope. So for example, I'm a family life practitioner. I am not going to say I am interested in autism, mental health for families, mental health for women. I'm interested in divorce. I mean, you can't do all of that. that. So we need to define, okay, if I'm family health practitioner, my goal is to focus on teens or children or women or relationship or conflict or communication, whatever it is that you think is that is more important to you. And then you can then focus your attention on that, and you don't allow the overload to work for you. I also think what is also important is that we need to also increase our rate of getting new information. So for example, if you believe you can only learn by reading, you will not be able to catch up in today's world, because your reading speed cannot catch up with the level of information. So what may be advisable is for you to also start to use tools, other alternative ways of learning. So for example, as a rule, when I am driving, I am listening. I'm either listening to the news or so because when I get home, I may not have enough time to do everything I need to listen to or to read. So when I'm driving, I'm listening to something. So that's a way for me to ensure I grasp a lot. And finally, is to know how to look for summaries that we can use for what we want to learn. I mean, there are various tools available. Skip is one of them. There are abstracts, Get Abstract, for example, that can summarize a book for you. So I read the summary. Now, if I now need to get I get more information, then I'll go after that. That would be the way I will think we can start to address that one.
Thank you so much. So focus is key. What exactly do you want? Instead of being here, being there, all over the place, one should just focus and just give one's attention to that. I think I have a question again here, a very, very interesting one. It says, how do we keep, okay, let me see. How do we keep, I think some messages are coming in and it's, sorry, I'm trying to go back there. How do we keep our teenage children from using the phone excessively?
Well, that's a big one. I mean, the Surgeon General of the United States did a release last month about the need for us to have increased oversight on the consumption of social media by children. So it's a real problem. I mean, don't underestimate it. And it's been found to have impact on mental health, confidence, motor skills, and things like that. I think one of the things we need to first do is for us to agree on the fact that we should have rules guiding social media use. In Canada, USA, England, Germany, and I think Sweden, various communities have come up with rules banning use of phones at specific times. Actually, a province in Canada, I think it's Saskatchewan, said from this term, children cannot bring cell phones to school, right? So where everybody is getting to that point. I remember one of the things I said was that we were not prepared for these changes we are seeing. So we need to be very conscious of that and then let that guide us. So part of the things that we need to have rules on use. I would recommend that if a child is young and has a cell phone as a smartphone, there should be time when the child cannot use that phone. So for example, you can't take your phone to school. Maybe a rule you want to have. Number two, maybe a rule that you can't use your phone when you come back from school. You must finish your own work before you use your phone. You can't use your phone on the dining table. You can't use your phone when we are having family devotion. You can't use your phone after 8 o'clock. When you go to sleep, drop your phone there. Those rules are things we can use to do. And remember, every phone, every smartphone has what is called a well-being app. So as parents, learn to use the well-being app for your child. What does the well-being app say? The well-being apps can prevent a child from going to some sites if you want him not to see some site, but can also show how many hours a child spends on the phone, and you can't delete it. So you can have an agreement to say you can't spend more than 30 minutes on your phone every day. So at the end of the week, you call the child to the room, and then the two of you will review the performance for the year, for the week, and then you set goals on how to improve on that. I think those are ways that we can use, but I don't think we should shy away from it. We have to set rules around social media consumption for younger people. And maybe, even we adults too need to have rules too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. You just hit it on the head for the children and even for the adults. And one of the things I'll just even suggest is, even for the children, involve them in that decision making. So let the child come to you with what he thinks or what she thinks is the number of hours or how often he or she wants to use the device. And then you can now come in and review together. That's where you are involving such a child in the decision making process. The child will be able to say that, okay, it's not that mommy or daddy just imposed this time on me. I was able to have a thought through the process. They were able to come into it and guide me in the process of making the decision. But like Prof said, it's very important that there are rules guiding the way our children use social media. I have another question here. um, just it says, why is it easy to push negative values as against projecting what is positive, given the fact that Africa is a religious society? We are mostly Muslims and Christians, yet corruption is at an all-time high. Sir, okay.
That's an interesting question. That's an interesting question. Um, the challenge is that there are a couple of reasons. I mean, bad news sells more. Deviant behaviors are rewarded by society, and there are deliberate agendas to promote that. So, like you remember, I gave example of platforms that deliberately promote some values. So, those are realities. I also think there's also the question of the depths of the people you say are Christians or Muslims. You know, people go to church, people go to mosque, but the depth is not really there. They Yoruba will say what, they are not cooked. They're not really very cooked. I was born a Muslim. I was born a Muslim. And I belong to a group, a WhatsApp group, where somebody said something about that Muslims are not supposed to do this. So I asked her, I said, so why do you say Muslims are not supposed to do this? And the guy said, because the Quran says the Muslims should not do that. So I said, which part of the Quran said so? And the guy said, it's in the Quran. I said, no, tell me which verse and which chapter. And the person said, so why are you asking me? I said, because what you said is not in the Quran. The person said, I believe it's in the Quran. I said, you're the Muslim. So tell me where it is. The person couldn't tell me. The person said, okay, maybe it's not in the Quran, it's not in the Hadith. I said, it's not in the Hadith. Then the person said, okay, maybe it's one of the Sunnah. I said, okay, if it's one of the Sunnah, which of the schools of the Sunnah are we talking about? This guy, who is a religious fanatic, was quoting references to Islam, and he knows nowhere it was written. I gave that example for you to say our people are not cooked. Same as Christians. There are people who go to church because it's customary to go to church on Sunday. So they don't really get the understanding of the values. A friend of mine told me about an interview he had with someone, or he had, and this lady who is a prostitute, the lady works in the brothel as a prostitute, and the lady was asked that does she allow men to sleep with her without condom? She said no, that she doesn't, that the men must use condom. So the guy now said, but what if I insist that I will not use condom and I offer to pay you more? So the lady asked, like, how much more? The guy mentioned what he had, and the lady said, yes, I will agree to that. So the guy now said, but wait, you use the condom to protect yourself. Now that the money you have collected, is that a protection? What will you use to protect it? The lady said, when I get in those cases, what I do is that before we start, I plead the blood of Jesus upon myself. And the person said, what did you say? He said, yes, when I don't use condom and they pay me more, I plead the blood of Jesus on myself. Now, those are the people we are counting in churches and saying that the number of people. So you have those challenges that is there. So that's why those values are getting challenged, because our people are not really getting cooked. Please permit me. There is one very interesting place in the Bible. The Bible says, and please, I hope you don't mind though. The Bible says that Ephraim is like a cake not turned. You know what that means? You know, when you're making akara, when you fry one side, you turn the other side, right? That's what makes it well done. So Bible says Ephraim is a cake not done, which means that there are some people that are done on one side, but they are not done on one side. So there are people, for example, they are done in prayer. They will join in the morning to pray with Pastor Jerieze. Then they will go and join the pastor whose church is in Bagada. Then they will join Holy Ghost night. Then they will join this. They are cooked in prayer, but they are not cooked in the Word of God. There are people that are cooked in faith, but they are not cooked in holiness. There are people that are cooked in miracles, but they are not cooked in working with God. And that's part of why these things are possible.
Okay, thank you so much. There is another question here. I think because the questions are coming. Okay, so how can Africans in diaspora cope in multicultural settings where our kids are exposed to all sorts? So we will need you to give us a response to that. How can Africans in diaspora, you're there so you know what it is like. So how,
Yeah.
Yes. Do I need to read it again?
I got it. Thank you, man. I think
Okay.
I think it's a very important question. It starts. I also think before we even talk about that, even we as adults, many homes of people in diaspora, you know, people will be saying people in diaspora they are making money. You don't want to hear stories about the quality of family life that is happening for many people. There's a lot of challenges. So even adults, I mean, don't be afraid for your children. Be afraid for yourself because there are values that you also imbibe. I have heard more people tell me they will walk away from their marriage in outside Canada than inside Canada. And this we're talking about Nigerians. So we also need to be conscious. For the children, it's again about this question about we being knowing our values, being flexible and trying to learn. I mean, let's be very sincere. Your child's view of same-sex marriage will not be like yours. There's nothing you're going to do about it. Nothing you can do about it. Remember, you grew up in Akomu or you grew up in Idoani. You never knew same-sex marriage was a possibility till you got to university. You never knew. That's the way you grew up. Your child was born 3 years old. He entered school. His teacher, the first teacher he had, is in a same-sex marriage. So what you saw for the first time at age 27, your child saw it at age 6. How do you think that child relates with you on that same subject? So your child's resistance will not be as much as yours. Now, that doesn't mean that you will not tell your child whether it's good or bad, but it's a different way you need to present it. Remember, in Nigeria, or then the story is that same-sex relationship is bad people that are going to same-sex relationship. But your child will see people who are good people that are in same-sex relationship. He will see it. And it's a person's choice, right? So part of what we need to do is to know how to educate our children because those things may not conform with our own values. And so it's not about good or they are bad people. It's that they make choices that does not conform with our own values. And I don't want you to make that same kind of choices. I mean, your child is going to have friends whose parents are in same-sex marriages. They're going to have parents who have other queer behaviors. Hey, we got to talk about it. And listen, let me just say this. I hope Mrs. Lawrence will not mind me saying this. You know, people always say that those of you in the diaspora, the culture is changing. How are you keeping your children safe? I always tell people, why are we deceiving ourselves? There is nothing that happens in diaspora that doesn't happen in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Nothing. Same-sex marriage happens in Nigeria. Strip clubs are in Lagos. All manner of things happen in Nigeria. How are you two coping with raising your own children? Oh, let us not just. The problem is not far. The problem is now there. I mean, and the last one I just wanted to make is that it's important for us to start to have those conversations and prepare people. I'll say this, and I hope some people will not get annoyed when I said it. A church decided for the first time in Nigeria, a church in Nigeria, decided to hire a pastor that had dreadlocks. He makes his hair. And they just announced, this is our new pastor, and the pastor stood up and there was dreadlock. And so I called one of the leaders of the church. I said, but that announcement, you did not prepare your church members that they are going to have a pastor that have a dreadlock. Person said, what do you mean prepare? Do you have a problem with dreadlock? I said, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying you did not prepare your members that they are going to have a pastor with dreadlock. Pastor, so what's the problem? I said, the problem is that some fathers and mothers are in trouble because of what you just did. He said, why? I said, because there are children that wanted to do dreadlock that the parents said Christians don't do dreadlock. And they have told them, have you seen any of the pastors do dreadlock? Have you seen any rich person do dreadlock? Have you seen any person? And those children have not done dreadlock. You have now brought a pastor to them that had dreadlock. Those children will go and tell the mom and dad and say, daddy, mommy. So you people have been deceiving us. So you have a pastor that has dreadlock and you are telling us that. I said, what will that parent now say? Because the parent has said good people don't have dreadlock. Now, you may say you don't like the way the parent taught them, but the question is that that's the way this person taught the children. So all of us are in this together. These challenges is global. And we all just need to be prepared to educate people. I don't have a problem. My younger son has a dread. So I'm not saying this because I have a problem with people that have dreadlock. The point I'm making is that we must start to prepare people for the changes. So it's not when your child comes to Canada or US, you start talking to him about this thing. Before he comes, let the conversation start. In Nigeria, tell him what to expect when he comes, tell him what we know. And then as he grows, have those conversations with him and keep doing it. But we need to prepare ourselves, whether the child is there or not, to do that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let me just read what we have on the chat. I see we need to know how to educate our children on issues that do not conform with our own values. So yes, we have our values. There are so many things happening out there. Our children need to know what we stand for. And that brings us to what we even, what we put out there in FSC. We have your family vision, you have your family values, you have your family creed, such that when someone, for instance, who is of Team Lawrence shows up, from the way he or she is behaving, you know that this is someone who has this value. And that is what we need to ensure happens with our own children. How many of us on this call have family values that is known to everyone? How many of us on this call, have the family vision that if the wife is called out to say, what's the vision of your family? It will be different from what the last child in the family will say. It will be different from what the husband will say. How many of us can do that? Because it starts from us. And we need to ensure that all these things, trickled down from us to our children. And we also have, absolutely, with technology and globalization, everything happening out there in diaspora is happening in Nigeria and everywhere. And as I'm talking, I'm smiling because I remembered a situation that happened. When I got back from Canada and we went to church, someone now met all of us and was like, oh, all of you, you're welcome. The person saw my son, saw our daughter, and the way he looked like someone coming from Canada. I said, oh, all of you, you're welcome back to Nigeria. So, this person says, it's everything happening here is happening elsewhere. So we should not do as if it's different from Africa or the Western world. I don't know if we have any other question on the call. Do we have any other question? Even as we are wrapping up. Okay, I think I have something here that I want to read out. I think Praise Forward dropped it after someone asked a question. Okay, we have sorry, I'm just trying to, okay, says family systems engineering is foundational to everything you do as a family life professional. Okay, this is for someone who was asking about the certification. Okay, so I don't need to touch any on that. Do we have any other question?
Yeah, I sent you a question. Please, can you check your private? Well,
Oh, okay.
I sent you a question.
Okay, let me see. Thank you. Please, can you resend it? I think it's
Okay,
lost.
I can read it out to Prof.
Okay.
Prof once dropped a question and was saying that what is it that the Asians, the Indians, and the Jews, and even the Emiratis have gotten right that Africans in diaspora has not gotten right? That they've been able to preserve their culture in the diaspora easily, unlike our people. But what are the things you think we can learn from them, and what exactly do you think they've done right for their people? That was the question.
Okay, yeah. Prof, I think Prof is off the call. Okay, he's here. He's just joining. Okay. Did you get that, sir? I think he logged out and he just came back in. Did you get the question, sir? Can you hear him? I think there's a problem with this link. Am I correct, Spear? Please help me.
It's network. I think it's network.
Is so we can't hear you.
Yeah, maybe Dima can help with it.
Okay.
Hello? I don't know what happened. No, I didn't hear the question.
Okay, you didn't hear the question. Okay. Why are Indians, Jews, and Emiratis doing right? What are Indians, Jews, and Emiratis doing right, especially with the way they have preserved their culture in the diaspora that Africans have not been able to achieve? I think he's no longer on the call. Dimma, please, can you help us with that?
Hello. Can you hear me? Please confirm.
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay, maybe admin wants to do the spotlight so that I can also, people can see me. So thank you, Ayo, for that question. And whilst you were asking the question and I was waiting for Prof to come on, one thing that came to my mind, immediately you asked the question, the word that jumped at my spirit was fraternity. And I know fraternity may have been corrupted in our minds because when we think about fraternity, we just think of cults. Cult and the negative thing associated with the cult ideology. Yet, cultism or the principle of cults and fraternity is not necessarily a bad thing. Just like Prof has been telling us all through today, that technology is not our problem. It is how we have adapted it, how we have used it, and all of that. So for me, what they have done right that we still lack is that we do not have the cult mentality. We do not have the herd mentality. Take, for example, an Indian who migrates from India to UK, gets there, he's already received into the Indian community. The Indian community that has already explored the place begin to now acculturize the new Indian into the ways of UK. Begin to teach them what works, how to get mortgage, how to fix themselves. Whereas in Africa, if somebody from my hometown gets into UK and I come into UK, he would rather hoard the information from me because he wants to be called the Ochilozwa one when it comes to the hometown. And Ochilozwa is the one that gathers people and spends money. So we don't understand cult ideology. We don't understand fraternity. We pride ourselves that we are a community, but we do not actually have the systems and the structures that helps community thrive. That's what they did on their own. They carry themselves along. They get into a place, they conquer it, and they understand that one man who is standing in a community of handicapped people is endangered. They understand that a forward-moving person, a rich man in a community of poor people is endangered. So they want to empower their brother. They want to show them the light. And then they teach you, they have a system of indoctrinating you into that system until you stand. In fact, there is word that says among the Jews, if they want to buy something or do something, that the money they make must circulate among the community a certain number of times before it gets out there. But imagine that I am providing a solution. Somebody would say, oh, who is she? Why does she think she's the one? Is it not this one that I know her parents from the village? He would rather go and give the money. Take, for example, some people will say to me, okay, FSC, I see the work you're doing, but is it UK recognized? Is it USA recognized? They would rather want to take foreign certifications than an indigenous certification just because it is built by a Nigerian. However, this program will give you more insight on how to deal with your African problems, much more than the foreign certification that did not take into cognizance your culture, your makeup. So it's all about us getting back to humanity, which existed in the time of our forefathers, which existed that somebody was being taken to slave trade. And they say, you know what, rather than that, all of us will die than this person taking only one of my brothers. So it's not like our forefathers didn't have it, but somewhere along the line, we became competitive with ourselves rather than being collaborative. We began to see our brother as a threat, our brother as an enemy, rather than one made in my, like me. Because if you want me to even break down what community means, community is just about not one man, all of us. So until Africa, which we are now advocating and living, can embrace true brotherhood, can actually remove the cloud of the negative connotations we have given to fraternity, that is how we can do what the Emiratis, the Indians have done. Go back to cult ideology, go back to fraternity, where one man doesn't go forward without his brothers, where one man is open to teach his brother what he knows until the brother masters it and becomes as equipped as he. That is only when Africa can rise from the dust.
Thank you so much, Dima, for that. I think we have Prof on the call. Let's hear what Prof's view also is. Sir, you can unmute now. I can see him, but he's mute. Maybe admin should try and unmute him. Okay, yes. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thanks to Madam Dima for helping with that. I think, I mean, the point she made is very, very important. We have to be very deliberate to keep our culture and transfer it. Keep the good parts of our culture. It's important for us to emphasize that it's not everything about our culture that is great. And there's no great culture in the world. Every culture has opportunities for improvement, and we should be deliberate. And let's also think about it. That we know the part of our culture we want to transfer. You will see a Nigerian child that can't speak Yoruba but knows Ashwebi, right? I mean, the child knows Ashwebi. You say Nigerian child, she was born in London, the guy was born in London, they want to do wedding, and they tell you they must do traditional, and the children will be dancing traditional. I mean, so they know the culture. We know the culture we are transferring. I think the problem we have is that we are not transferring the values that help. So it's good for us as parents, and it's important here because there are also parents on this call, that let's be very conscious of the values we are transferring and be very deliberate at an early age. That's just what I want to add, but I agree perfectly with what Madam Dima said.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for the thoughts. I think I have one last question here, and it was asked on YouTube. It says, please, how can someone who handle teens at school get them to read and focus on education and personal development? Also minimize the use of social media.
Thanks. That's a very great question. I just think that sometimes maybe the opportunity we have is for us to remember. There's a Yoruba saying, and I hope you don't mind me saying, Yoruba will say that Agbawabura, they will share it. The meaning of Agbawabura is that are you saying that what a child does, you didn't do the same thing when you were young? I mean, many of us did not like reading when we were young. Many of us were not concerned. I mean, somebody said was going to do something for a teens church for teenagers, and I was going to ask them to write 20-year plan. So I asked the brother, I said, you want a 14-year-old to write a 20-year plan? He said, yes. I said, what does that even really mean to a 14-year-old? They said, well, you see, our goal is to ensure that the child has. I said, you see, the problem with some of us who are melancholy is that we feel that melancholy is the fruit of the spirit. I mean, it's just a style, and you didn't become melancholy. You found yourself in melancholy. So to plan for 20 years, okay, but what does a 14-year-old have as a resource to plan his life for the next 20 years? How? Now, I agree that there could be some 14-year-olds that can have a 70-year plan. It's not impossible, but that is not normal for that age group. So we should remember that we also struggle. So if we come from that point of view, we'll be able to have a lot of empathy. Maybe we'll also have to accept that the child today, the way they learn is different from the way we learn. Because somebody will say, I mean, like a parent that told me that my son he never reads. He's always on Facebook. So I asked the parent, I said, so what's the problem? He said he doesn't read his book. He's on Facebook. So I said, well, in that Facebook, what is he doing? He said he's reading on Facebook. So the problem is not that the child is not reading. The problem is that the child is reading comments on Facebook. He's not reading his book. I said, so if you keep telling the child is not reading, you are not addressing the issue because the child is reading. The child is learning. He's only learning maybe what is not important or what is not critical for his age. So why don't you find ways to start to distract him from what he learns? I mean, because I tell people this same Facebook, this same Twitter with Demify, we can help some people know, okay, if you follow this person, you can see good content and things like that. So that's the other thing. Now, the third thing I just want to mention is that children learn in different ways. I mean, one of the things we need to accept is that some children are very visual learners, some are auditory learners, some are tactile learners. So when we put that at the back of our mind, we can then decide how each child will learn. So for those of us who are children teachers, either in schools or teen teachers in churches, this idea of teaching everybody the same way, it's interesting because we know it's not as effective as it should be. Why don't we start to be deliberate to know how each child learns best? Now, I know it's not possible for you to flex your teaching to suit every particular child, but we can start to have learning in such a way that a child who likes to learn through pictures sees the PowerPoint. A child who tries to learn through words is allowed to read. A child who learns through stories is allowed to hear the stories. And with that, we are teaching them, we can use a combination of that to meet the needs of everyone at the end of the day. It's a tough thing teaching across generations. But we need to have the adaptability and flexibility to adjust to the needs of those students. That would be my suggestion, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. And we'd just like to have your final word. There are no other questions, just your final word in few minutes, few seconds, so that we wrap it up. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks again. Let me thank the organizers for inviting me. Let me also thank all those that attended. I believe that the goal of this session is for us to share ideas and be better people. I mean, I don't believe the goal is just talk and then everybody continues as if they didn't hear anything. My request is for us to start to think about what do we need to, the changes we need to make in our families, in our personal lives to become better people. The threats to homes, families, it's real. We're going to have more intense threats to homes and families, including values. And we have to stand as vanguard. One, upholding the right values. Two, modeling the right values. And three, teaching people the right values. And is a challenge we need to take and be invested in so that we can have society to be better for it. We all know it. There is no need for you to say it. When children come from broken homes or homes that are not dysfunctional, they become cost to society. And that's why we need to take this very seriously. Again, let me thank you for listening to me, and I wish you all the best today.
Thank you so much, sir. Let me call Dima Wobi, the Director of Studies. She has a few things to pass across to us.
All right, thank you, Prof. As usual, that was a very insightful session. I know that you can listen to Prof for 10 hours and you will not get tired. In fact, you would have so much to take home. And I know that everybody who has been here has taken so much in. So thank you everyone for being here. So just so that we can still keep our minds on what Prof has shared, I want to just highlight the points that Prof shared and how it is very important that the next thing I'm going to say after highlighting it is something you want to pay attention to. So when Prof was talking about the challenges of modernization, he made 7 critical points. And he talked about technology, he talked about globalization, he talked about us being now in a right-based society. He talked about more workplace opportunities where both father and mother are now working. And that research was really instructive for me when he said in the US, over 48% of people in the workforce have had romantic relationships at work. Then number 5, he talks about a mismatch of values, and he talks about the emergence of new role models. And lastly, he talked about poorer relationship building skills. And when he also went on to say, so why are we being challenged by this? 3 key things: lack of adequate preparation, not having adaptive mechanism, and the speed of change. And if you were here listening to all of the things that Prof, suggested we do in our families, in our lives, in our workplace, what just kept coming to my mind was just this word, SYSTEM. And if you also listen to the questions that people have been asking, oh, how do I get my children to, use technology wisely? How do I get them to not be on phone? How do I get them to not do this? It is still that letter word, SYSTEM, systems. Systems is what makes ordinary people achieve extraordinary results, even as the world is changing at the speed of light. And which is why I am very excited to be telling you about the programs that the Institute has that can help you not only be a listener for today, but also cascading this down. When Prof was giving tips, he mentioned something. He said, for us to be able to deal with these challenges of modern life and modernization, you need to be able to learn and discuss the trends, how it influences you. And not just you need to be able to tap into the experiences of others, which is the beauty of the Institute, that we don't only train you and we push you out into the world, you belong to the community of the most competent family life practitioners across Africa. where you could be having a challenge with your client in your family and you bring it to the platform. And please, members of this tribe, come and tell me whether I'm talking right. Do you get your solutions when you bring it to the platform? Do you get right in the moment? Because many a times when you are fixated in an issue, you are not broadened enough to see. You need a neutral third party to see it for you. And that's what the community offers. And we have lots of offerings. First of all, we have the Family Systems Engineering certification program that helps you to understand how human beings were formed, such that you are able to help them create change from an internal state and not just be reeling out advice to them, telling them what to do without properly diagnosing what could be wrong with that person. And the next stream of the FSC training is starting this Friday. Wow. This Friday, not this Friday, Friday, September the 20th. A lot of people have also been concerned about their teenagers. How do I do this for my teenager? It is start now to teach your teenager the system life, how to have system around their education, how to have a system around the exposure to internet, how to have a system around their well-being. And this is doable, you know, because when you have this, you are not caught up in the moment, always planning what to do. Systems actually help you engage life with ease. And like Prof rightly said, the speed of change, we can't catch up with it. You are learning this trend today, tomorrow there's a new one. You are trying to protect your child from one sexual identity that does not align with your values and beliefs. Tomorrow there's cross-dressing, next tomorrow there's another. It's just too much to handle. If you are a parent, you would understand that. That is why for those of us who have teenagers or are working with teenagers, you need tested tools. You need tools that can help you build emotional connection with those teenagers, help them to create change that is intrinsic. If you have any teenager, you will know that giving them instruction no longer works. Right? So you need to understand what's the science of motivation. How can I motivate a teenager to do the things that I need them to do, not because I want them to do it, but because they get a buy-in into it. There's a science and art of that. So if you have a teenager or you work with teenagers, you want to also explore our teen coaching certification program. And the good news is that a new stream is starting on Thursday, September 5th. So you have an opportunity to do that. And for those of us who are in, we're already working as family life practitioners, you've built your own practice, but you know that maybe you are not getting the kind of results you think you want to get with your clients. Maybe it's hard, it's tough for your clients to open up to you. You know that there's a science of connection. There is a way to be a safe space for a client so that they can open up. Or you just tired of the length of work. Recently, I did a survey, and out of the people who responded as family life practitioners, one of the top things they said that, weighs them down in the work is the time it takes to listen to your clients, to work with them, to even begin to see results. And then I said to them, what if there is a tool that can help you to, as much as a 97% accuracy, find out what could be the root cause of the issues your client is having? And the man jumped and said, I think it will cut away more than 75% of the time I spend trying to even listen and know what's happening. So we have a free webinar if you're such a person already practicing, having challenges, knowing there's so much more you can do, but not having the skills, not having a sense of direction. Please book it in your calendar. August 31st and September 1st, we're having a free webinar, The New Rules of Family Life Coaching. You want to be there because that is where you will realize maybe the gaps you're making, the mental blocks that may be sabotaging your practice, and these new rules. What are the new rules of family life coaching? Come and learn that with me and the team, August 31st to September 1st. So that's so much I want you to know about the Institute and the programs that we have. And if you're interested, you would see that, we're already sharing on the platform the different ways you can contact us. I need somebody also with the people that are on YouTube to be able to give them this information so that they too can join the winning team. And it's for me, please, let's not just be hearers of the word. Let us take action to activate that. If somebody was asking me, what is all that Prof said today? What is that one thing that stood out for you? Everything Prof said was significant, but one that really sank into my soul, maybe because it aligns with who I am, is what he said about the solution to navigating modernization and modern life is to know your values and to live your values. And the way Prof described value, I have never heard it described. In fact, I've put it down as something I'm going to use in one of my posts. And Prof said, a value is a decision that you make that guides your other decisions. And I just thought that's the simple way to explain values. So if you're here, you don't even know your values, don't worry. In all of this, our programs would help you articulate your values. You don't have family values, you don't have personal values, which does not enable you show up in this modern life the way that is authentic to you. Trust me, be at New Rules of Family Life Coaching, take our Family Systems Engineering certification course, or if your passion and your skill set is towards teenagers, then the teen coaching certification program is just something that you need, that you will forever be grateful for. So I'm done speaking, and I hope to see you in class as I pass the baton back to our host, Blessing Christopher, to take it over from here. Hello, Blessing.
Thank
Okay, please go
you,
ahead.
Queen of Happiness. The Queen of Happiness. Thank you, Queen of Happiness. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Coach Ayo, for the Q&A session. You will all agree with me that it has been a transformational lecture indeed. I've learned quite a lot, and I believe you've all learned.
Did we lose her?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I want to also thank my colleagues at the Institute of Family Engineering and Development. Maybe I've been talking about FSC so much, for always being on point to put this out. Want to also express our thanks to Prof. Whenever we call on you, Prof, you're always there for us, and we do not take it for granted. For all of you amazing souls that took our time to be here with us. We could not have done this on our own if you did not show up. So thank you for showing up. And if you actually learned something, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you're also going to be getting more information. And please share this link to your friends, your spouses, so that they can also listen to it and then get back to your homes to begin to take action steps. I think on this note, we're going to say thank you and God bless you. God bless your families, and God bless our nation, Nigeria, and our continent, Africa, until we see you next time. And if you want to explore any of our trainings, please reach out to us via the details shared in the chat room. And it's good evening from Lagos, Nigeria, and from wherever you are. Please have a fantastic day and a great relaxing weekend ahead. Thank you so much.